I don't know how many species of cactus there are, though.
I thought only the one.
No, there's more than one. There's the prickly kind and then the one that's almost prickly.
Big, green, and spiky.
Well, most of them are.
Yeah.
But there's got to be at least 2.
Yeah.
What are those little ones called?
Cactuses.
All right. Well, that doesn't... When is John getting here?
I don't know. I mean...
He's very punctual.
Usually, we can't start...
He's right on time.
He's almost always on time, but we can't really start without him because of the whole, intro thing.
Yeah, he does that. Why did we have him do that? How do we decide that?
I think it was he just introduced us and we went along with it.
Oh, I see.
It was kind of... not fair if you think about it.
Yeah.
If I could go back in time, I would have maybe done something different.
I'm thinking about that a lot.
What the?
Whoa.
John?
John, you changed your hair.
Yeah. What? Hey, what's today's date?
I don't know.
What year is this?
2016?
Good. I made it. Hopefully just in time.
What? What are you talking about?
You guys, you are not looking at the John you know. I am John from the future.
What year?
2020.
Whoa.
That's not that far into the future.
Perfect vision.
It's enough into the future, all right? It's still the future.
It's not relatively...
Things are very different.
Okay.
Things are very different.
That explains the weird, Geordie LaForge visor.
Everybody's wearing these now.
Really?
Oh.
Regardless if they need them. It's really a fashion thing.
Okay.
Everybody's has been given LASIK surgery, so my glass is obsolete.
Okay.
This is purely a fashion
But the visor's
choice.
for fashion.
Absolutely.
And the hair is...
It just looks cool.
He's not wrong.
It's a good hair look.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
Get a little...
Wait, we're getting off topic.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
You two are always doing this.
Always?
Whoa. We
Always
we
doing
just
this.
met you, sir. You can
No,
step
we've
up.
known him for years.
Well, not this one.
What do you mean?
Yes, you've known me for actually many more years as a result of this, actually.
don't know.
Well, at least 4.
Yeah, yes, 4 more years than you knew me before. Not the point.
Okay.
You in particular, you're always causing trouble. Listen,
all
I
right.
have something very important I need to tell you.
Really?
Yes.
From the future?
Yes. From the future. This is not that complicated.
Does the podcast still happen in the future?
Yes, it does. It's now a TV show, though.
Really?
The only way I could describe it to you is as TV. But,
Well, what else is there?
well, we call it VT, actually.
What's the
Why?
V stand for?
We're not sure. Nobody actually knows.
Ay.
Yeah.
That sounds
The
exciting.
government just said this is how it is now.
Wait, hold on. So we're VT stars in the future?
We are VT stars.
Wow.
And we're all wearing these visor things?
Mm-hmm. But yet, surprisingly enough, the visor, nothing to do with VT.
Interesting. Okay.
It's a sort of a beam that gets, beamed into your head.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. It's not bad.
Was there something you wanted to say?
Yes. Very important.
Okay.
This is life or death circumstances.
Life or death?
The
Wait, who's going to die?
Many people, actually.
Oh, wow.
John, you're getting more see-through.
Yes. You don't understand.
I don't think that's how that works.
This is a Back to the Future-like scenario.
Son of a bitch.
What?
Yes, I know. You always scoffed at this, Gorgoni, but Robert Zemeckis was right the whole time.
Ah, shit.
In fact, there's actually a fairly large cult in the future that's worshipping at the feet of Robert Zemeckis.
Oh, wow.
Am I part of that?
You are, actually.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. You joined up quick. You were like one of the first 5.
I believed in that guy for years.
Yeah, exactly.
High time.
I mean, he made Forrest Gump. I don't blame you.
Yeah.
I mean, all the messages with the feathers. But you're getting me off topic. I will be here soon, or the past me will be here soon.
Oh, now I'm just confused.
Yes. Well, there's 2. It's not that complicated. I don't understand. What's confusing? All right? There's me
Mostly
from
the part
now.
where we kill a bunch of people.
Yeah, well, yes. Yes, but you can prevent it.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
All
Listen to
right.
me. All right. Now, there's just one thing you have. Whatever you do, you're listening.
Mostly.
Get off your
you're
phone,
just ahead.
Gorgoni.
I mean, okay, look, there's some very... Oh, wow, there's a new Deadpool trailer. What?
Listen. All right. Now, if there's one thing you have to tell the past me,
Okay.
whatever it is,
Okay.
he absolutely, under no circumstances, understand this? No matter what,
Right.
can ever say,
Oh, wow, he just faded away. What the hell? Was that...
Still smells like him, though.
I mean, a little bit.
How does that work?
Smell doesn't go through time?
It doesn't?
I mean...
So we're going to always smell that Crisco kind of thing. I think it was in his hair.
Ooh,
Oh, what do you think he was going to say?
I don't know.
Or not say, or say
I mean, it was
to not
clearly
say.
important.
Yeah.
Something to do with John?
Should we tell John about this?
I mean...
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You just stress out about it.
Yeah, I'd just be worried.
Okay, cool.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
But at least 2 cactuses.
Oh, we know of.
Cacti.
Cactuses?
Cactuses. Ooh, a cactus saw.
and welcome to another episode of Panel on Panels, the podcast about all things comics and comics related. I'm your host, John Campbell. Joining me as always, my co-host, Mike Ergoni.
Greetings.
And next to him, Mr. Donovan Eilert.
Hi, everybody. How's it going? Nothing weird just happened.
Donovan?
We talking
Nothing,
about?
John. We're great. How's it going?
Yeah, good.
They messed up my dinner order a minute ago. That's
You
what I
guys are
was
being real weird.
talking about.
Don't worry about it.
All right, fine.
Glasses look good today, John.
Real good.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean they're not new or anything.
No.
I mean I polished them up and stuff.
Yeah,
but-
yeah.
Do you think? Do you ever wear contacts?
Do I ever work? No, I don't
Do
actually.
you think you'll ever get like surgery to correct?
I doubt it.
Okay.
I can't. I really can't see that
Fair
happening.
enough. You can't. Okay. Yeah.
No.
Can't see that happening.
I was gonna make it.
Yes. Anyway, today I also, in addition to the three of us, we're joined by another panelist today, a special guest panelist.
Yeah.
His first appearance on the show. We want to welcome Mr. Michael Lissman to the show.
Hello, everyone. I'm
Hey.
glad you're welcoming me into your homes and your ears and your brains forever.
Sorry, I said hey because you said hey everybody, and I wanted to make sure that
We are
you
not
knew
a part
that.
of everybody.
No,
We're not?
No,
When
not
did
you
we
included.
stop being everybody?
When we became somebody.
Oh.
Once you start talking to a microphone, you're no longer part of everybody.
Oh, fair enough.
Very exclusionary.
Yeah, so
I gotta
Lissman,
tell my
that's a
parents.
note to you.
Yes, I'm no longer.
You're no longer
everyone.
part of everybody. Nope,
But you're somebody.
I am.
you're
someone.
somebody.
What you've always dreamed of.
Yes. From
Hey.
the day I was born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on today. We're having you on because you're kind of a time expert.
Yes.
You own more watches than anybody that I've ever known.
We just want to talk about time in
Like
general.
an unreasonable amount of clocks are in my house.
Yeah.
It's like a creepy like set piece in a
It's
movie.
like
Here's
the
the thing.
opening to a Pink Floyd song.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
Here's
The-
the thing:
the
200
ticking-
is unreasonable. The 400 you have,
Yes.
yeah.
kind of impressive.
Yeah, that's true.
It became back.
It became so. Yeah, it became so many. It rolled back on itself. I was going to say though, the ticking is deafening.
Oh yes.
Unquestioned.
Yeah, and it's for time zones all over the world.
Right.
So
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
your favorite time zone?
I would have to say whichever one is in Fiji. That I have a Fiji clock, and
Yeah.
it is
I believe,
out of this world. Well, out of this nation, but let's
Believe it's Fiducian.
Fiducian.
Yeah.
Fiducian time.
Yeah, Fiducian time.
Fiducian Standard
Oh my
Time.
God, what are we talking about this week?
Yeah.
Well, funny you should ask that. Time, obviously a thing, and which Lissman knows a fair amount about. But we're talking about when people travel through time.
Time travel?
Time travel.
We don't know anything about that.
Bending the laws
No,
of time.
Not a little bit.
No, it's not real.
No, of course we don't.
Yeah.
It's just in comic.
Comic books and movies.
Yes, exactly. We're
Yeah.
talking. This is a comic book podcast, so we're talking about when people do the absolutely impossible thing of time travel in said comic books.
Yes, definitely.
Well, impossible. I mean, we don't know. We can't claim to know everything about the universe, John.
Yes,
Perhaps
this
time
is true.
travel is possible.
Theoretically,
in I don't know,
Theoretically.
4 years.
That seems.
Yeah, I'm just throwing it out.
Are you
there.
That seems pretty
ballparking
soon.
it?
Yeah,
That
just
seems-
ballparking it. Yeah.
Okay.
He is our
pretty
master
soon.
on time.
This is true.
I'm not necessarily a master on time.
Okay.
I'm a time enthusiast.
Are you like that the time detective that was a caveman?
What is that? Is that an actual thing?
That was
Flint?
Flint the Time
Time
Detective.
Detective, yeah.
that was
Time
definitely a cartoon when we were growing up.
I don't think it was a
missed that.
cartoon. I think it was just a slightly distorted real person.
I'm
kind
pretty
of.
sure it
a
was like a
documentary.
weird
documentary
knockoff of
series.
Captain Caveman.
Just
was
a
what it
really
was.
poorly shot documentary.
Yeah, exactly. That's everything when you're a kid. Is that?
Yeah, exactly. But no, obviously, time travel is a trope that comes back
again and again.
again and again throughout comics.
It's in a never-ending loop in some cases.
And just in pop culture in general, but I mean specifically in comics, there is sort of an obsession with it to a certain extent.
I mean, I think Days of Future Past definitely opened the floodgates.
Well, let's jump right in
Yeah.
to
I don't
a
know.
certain comics obsession with
Like,
time travel.
X-Men does
which,
so much
Let's
with
talk
time travel.
X-Men.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the Gray Summers family for a little bit?
God, yeah. I mean, this something I wanted to start with was just like what is it about X-Men and time travel? Like, why X-Men more than other books?
I think the X-Men comic in general is more sci-fi based. Like they stick right in all of the sci-fi scientific tropes. I
think
of
that,
the media. I mean,
well, they start from a biological standpoint, right? I mean, they're
Exactly.
born mutants. It's an X gene.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's sort of treated instead of a more mystical, vague sense. It's
Right.
supposed to be oh, it's evolution, it's the next step of humanity. Kind of thing.
Whoever lifts this recessive gene shall possess the power of the X-Men.
Right, yeah.
I'm sure Odin said that somewhere after he did the Thor thing.
Like the actual god Odin said it?
Yeah,
in
exactly.
In ancient lore?
Probably.
Or, some Marvel comic that Walt Simonson did. I mean, like,
See, that does not surprise me.
But you're right. There is something. X-Men is kind of based in science fiction to begin with, so it sort of makes sense that they would also touch on, because they also have gone to space as well.
Well, they went to space first.
They
Yes,
went to
this is
space
true.
a lot.
That's
They
usually
still
the
are.
first step. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as we discover, Cyclops is the son of a space pirate.
Well, I mean, of course.
Yeah, but he's
A
only
space pirate with, like, a really bitchin' mustache.
This is true. This was the
He's
1970s.
only a space pirate because he was abducted by aliens.
It's true.
In the middle of a plane crash.
He didn't start as a space pirate.
Wait,
Yeah.
his father is Star-Lord? Is that what I'm...
No. Quasar.
Quasar.
Corsair.
Corsair.
Quasar. Quasar is another character, though.
Corsair,
right.
captain of the
That's
Starjammer.
That's right. The Starjammers.
Well, we should know. I mean, Lissman, you're not like hugely well versed in comics. We're having you on because more of a time travel fan in
Yeah,
general. So,
I get most of my comics knowledge from you guys listening to this
Interesting.
podcast, as well as just talking to you in person. There's very little difference between me listening to the podcast and me listening to conversations.
I was going to say you've known us for years before the podcast. And
Yeah.
You've just been hearing this.
It's
in
as
person.
if you guys are having a conversation with me on the bus that I am not participating in.
Like most of our
As per usual.
It's just like in real life.
But so I just wanted that as a note to listeners. If suddenly people are like, "Wait, Lissman doesn't know who Corsair is," it's like, well, no, yeah.
To be fair, if you don't know who Corsair is, I'm not going to hold it against
No,
you. Like,
no,
Cyclops' space pirate dad is a bit of a deep cut.
Well, you
Yeah.
don't know the Starjammers?
But yeah, X-Men just, like, once they opened up the time travel floodgates,
Was
I
Days
guess.
of Future Past the first
I was just
X-Men
about to
time travel
ask,
story?
yeah.
I think.
The first one that dealt with it in a major, major way.
Yeah.
I feel like they'd, because, I don't know, does Nimrod predate that?
he might.
Because he's like the crazy superpowered sentinel who came back from the future to like put a stop, but then his brain got all
Oh
wonky.
boy, yeah. It's
in the time travel process.
I think he bonked his head when he fell out of the time hole.
Oh, I hate when that happens.
yeah. Those Sentinels can't handle a blow to the head.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that to me is where I would trace its origins in X-Men. So I guess that's as good a place as any to start with this sort of. We'll get more into like just time travel in general later, but let's talk about Days of Future Past since it's up
Sure.
on the docket, I suppose, right now. This is one of the most famous comic book stories in general.
I mean, they named a movie after it.
They did name a movie after it. And you've seen the movie, Lissman.
Yeah.
But so basically the story is dystopian future. It's almost apocalyptic future, really.
Well, no, that's a different timeline entirely.
Well, there's an actual apocalypse future.
That's the next movie.
yes.
Yeah, there is an actual there is the actual age of apocalypse, but
Totally different, John.
but I mean to a certain extent, I mean
We haven't even gotten to Cable yet.
we'll talk about Cable for a little while. But there's been a mutant genocide, basically.
They're all in camps or dead.
Yeah, exactly, and
And a lot of the humans are being like put down as well because the Sentinels have kind of gone a little wacky in this dystopian future.
oh, for sure. And at this point, she's in the context or in the story of the comics. Kitty Pryde is a fairly new member of the X-Men.
Yes.
at this point, but she's the one who, in the future, is chosen to.
She is sent back in time by Rachel Summers, that is Jean and Scott's daughter from that future, who uses her crazy psychic powers to send Kitty Pryde from that timeline back into time to possess her younger body.
Yes. Which is an interesting take on time travel, that you're sending back the consciousness of somebody to be in their younger body.
It's very much in the traditions of a lot of like old pulp. H.P. Lovecraft did a lot of did some stuff with that form of time travel specifically,
Right.
Where like beings from the distant future are projecting their minds into the past,
Which
sort
is,
of a thing.
I mean, I'm saying considerably different than I'll get in my DeLorean and drive into the
right, or
1950s.
just hop into my like svelte like brass and silvery knobs like H.G. Wells time machine.
Right,
and
right,
go
right.
visit some Morlocks.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, Morlocks and X-Men for very different.
This is true. Very
Slightly
different
different.
Warlocks.
Is Storm still the leader of all those guys?
Technically,
Okay, cool.
I don't know.
She is.
In the current,
Does that come back?
If you read issue 1 of Extraordinary X-Men, there is it's dropped that Storm is still technically the leader of the Morlocks.
Awesome.
Yeah.
via a like fight to the death with Calypso 20 years ago.
It's really like an offhanded thing where it's like, I think you're still in charge of the Morlocks. She's like, yeah, I mean, what's whatever. Let's focus on this
That's
other
a great
problem.
way to handle continuity right there. Yeah,
Very nonchalant.
I mean, at this point, it's been so long. That kind of is the X-Men approach.
that is fair. Yeah.
I think that's still happening. Whatever.
Yeah.
It
The
doesn't.
Morlocks have been butchered, unfortunately, so many times.
So many times.
But yeah,
vitamin D.
that definitely Days of Future Past definitely introduced the idea of the dystopian future and going into the past to try to prevent it. The X-Men are constantly trying to prevent dystopian futures.
Do you know
Yeah.
why? Because they keep time traveling and messing up their future.
Yeah.
Do you think the success of this comic led to them having so many time traveling?
I do.
Well, I mean,
stories?
we've seen time traveling stuff in Marvel before. Like Kang the Conqueror was a thing.
Yeah.
Let's hold off a little bit on Kang the Conqueror because that's its own discussion for sure.
Yeah.
But you're right. But what's interesting is I do feel like all the X-Men time travel stories stem from this because they
Right.
usually involve, if not this exact dystopian future, this kind of dystopian future.
Or some form of dystopian future.
But I mean, particularly because we do start to get into characters like Cable. Characters like Rachel Summers are the backbone of a lot of the X-Men time travel stories.
yeah.
So I do think that this is sort of what kicks off the X-Men's relationship with time travel.
Or different timeline variants of Rachel Summers. It gets confusing.
It's gotten
Yes,
to a point
yes.
that if I'm introduced to a new X-Men character who the other characters are like, who's this person? My first thought is they're probably from a different time.
It's true because we just name dropped him earlier, but Cable.
which I
It
just want
shows
to
up out
say,
of nowhere.
Rob Liefeld posted a picture on his Twitter a few days ago that was like, who do I want to play Cable?
I saw this.
want John Hamm to play Cable.
John
with like
Hamm,
a
yeah.
slightly Photoshopped version of John Hamm. It looked amazing.
He would be an awesome Cable.
He'd be so cool.
He said
And
he's
down
never
to do it.
Well, he said he's never wanting to do a superhero movie.
Is
So
Cable a superhero?
I mean,
The
his
X-Men are
superpower is he
superheroes.
has all of the guns.
It's certainly a superhero movie. So
Yeah,
It's true. What if Cable was in his own like kind of indie summer flick? Cable finding romance out of time.
I love you. Just like we will change this to whatever you want, John Hamm,
Yeah.
so you can play Cable.
You're in
Even if
John
it no
Hamm?
longer
You got it.
resembles X-Men.
Yep.
You can play
Still
Cable.
have guns and you're partially metal.
I really just wanted to see Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool and John Hamm's Cable on the same screen.
Oh, that'd be so interesting.
Yeah,
But yeah, Cable is the time displaced son of Jean Grey and Scott Summers.
yeah.
So they have a lot of time traveling children.
They do.
Oh man, you have no idea. so Rachel Summers.
We should have a non-comic book reader or like a non-like comic
This is
devotee.
great. This will be great for people.
So
I was
Rachel
going to say
Summers,
because
the one
you're like
familiar,
throwing,
yeah.
you're setting us up for something.
Yeah.
The one from Days of Future Past Future
Yeah.
is Scott and Jean's daughter. If Jean had like gotten possessed by the Phoenix Force and then just like equalized with it and never
Yep.
gone crazy,
Right.
And then they eventually have a kid, and that's Rachel Summers.
Hypothetical future baby.
Cable is Scott Summers and Madeline Pryor's kid.
Yep.
Madeline Pryor is a weird clone of Jean Grey made by Mr. Sinister.
Oh, sure.
Oh, it gets even crazier.
No, yeah. This
Great
is not
bad
the
guy
word.
name, by the way.
Mr. Sinister. Oh yeah. Oh,
Sinister's
absolutely.
He is the
Almost
Glamis
as good
of
as
supervillains.
Sinestro.
Yes, he is. He looks so good.
Yeah.
All the time.
But so Cable in the future was raised by Scott and Jean, who projected their minds into the future to raise their son,
sure.
who was being looked after by a time displaced version of Rachel Summers, who had become like an old woman who like was in charge of a cult that was rising up against Apocalypse. So
yeah.
Cable was raised during the like Age of Apocalypse timeline.
Oh,
if I'm
for
not
the love of
mistaken.
God! I mean, now,
it gets so confusing.
now you've brought up, now you've opened the can of worms that is the age of apocalypse.
And timelines, because that's the thing with all of these things is we start having these like small divisions in these timelines. Because like you talk about what's his name, Bishop.
Yeah, I was just going to bring up Bishop. Yeah.
Bishop is from a timeline that is very similar to, but distinct from, Days of Future Past.
Yes.
It does almost if when Scott and Jean conceive a baby, and they're like, "When's the baby due, doctor?" And they're like, "In 45 years."
Yeah.
Here he is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
they're fully grown now.
Right.
Oh, you didn't meet him in the
I'm your
hallway
baby.
earlier? Yeah, like
Yeah, exactly.
What?
It is. I mean, everybody is a little too cool with it to a certain extent.
Well, at a certain point, they get like desensitized. I think it's just like,
They're just
oh,
like-
time travel, got it.
Oh, what are
Done.
you? What are you? My full-grown kid from like 50 years from now? All right, okay, yeah.
Sure, yeah.
Oh, here's
Sure,
the
sure.
next one. Jeez,
Yeah.
get in line.
Exactly.
Can you raise this next one that's going to be in the future?
You're not getting any
all right,
child
that's
support.
great.
Yeah.
You all wait over there. We got to go punch Magneto, and then we'll be back, and I guess we'll sort this out.
Yeah.
That is if the Phoenix Force doesn't take over everybody and drive them insane.
Who knows?
Right.
One of my favorite time travel ideas in X-Men, and this is maybe not completely kosher time travel, but
Okay.
when you've got a character like Wolverine who has been around for so long, he is kind of, in essence, time traveling. Like, he's lived through so much and he knows so much from... He's not going back in time.
Yeah, because this is interesting you bring this up because I also want to talk about Vandal Savage for the same reason.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, these are guys who have just sort of been around forever.
Yeah. Wolverine has a pretty set start date of 1600s or something.
Yeah.
That's
Savage
when
is
Wolverine was considered to be born, and
if you take Wolverine Origins,
Yeah.
not the movie,
the comic.
Or
yes.
Wolverine Origin,
Yeah.
that's a good comic. Yeah.
That's really good, yeah.
Yeah.
But as opposed to Vandal Savage, who, depending on who's writing it, either started in ancient Egypt or possibly caveman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the caveman Vandal Savage.
Yeah.
That seems like a cooler thing.
Yeah.
Although Egyptian is sort of like dawn of civilization.
Well,
He's
one of the
definitely
best things-
there in ancient Egypt.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether he started
Oh, of
there
course, yeah.
or he's
But,
he
like,
was
the
there.
dawn
Yeah,
of
I like the
humanity.
idea that
He's
he's
been
been
with
around for a
humanity.
long time.
Yeah.
By that time.
Yeah, I like that too.
Well, because there's the comic, maybe you've read it, Lissman, where Batman gets basically time bulleted back through time.
Yet another comic that I was waiting to bring up on here as well.
Amazing.
Was it Time and the
Return
Batman?
of Bruce Wayne. Time and Batman is the one where he tells the stories in now, and slight future and the distant future.
Yeah.
That was like the last thing that happened for the New 52. Is that correct?
That was kind of the last.
It was like a
you're right.
big
That was like
event.
the last big.
Yeah,
Batman
the big
arc.
event.
So
Yeah.
the Return of Bruce Wayne, everybody's like, he's dead, but really you just follow him each issue and he's in a different period of time.
Yeah.
The first one, he's caveman time and he's got his belt. And there's Vandal Savage
Yep.
there. And Batman just thrashes caveman and then gets forward the future. Now he's like a pilgrim. He's like he's trying to bring
Witch
justice.
hunter.
A witch hunter Batman.
Witch hunter
but
Batman
he's not
is one
even
of my
like a
favorites.
witch hunter.
great.
He's trying to it's just a social justice Batman.
Right.
And then you get
Social justice
and
Batman.
then you get pirate Batman where he's Blackbeard of a ship. And so he's going through time.
Does he have a big black beard?
He does have a
Yeah, he
big
absolutely
man.
does.
shape
Yes.
of a bat.
It's
Still rocking the cowl.
Very well
Still,
groomed.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's it's the cowl
Yeah.
with the beard coming out of it.
Fantastic.
And then there's Noir Detective Batman.
there's Wild West
Wild West Batman.
Sheriff Batman.
Yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, there's.
But yeah, that's more along the lines of the time displacement where you have someone bouncing around
Which
different.
is cool.
because you also get Death of Captain America. You get that to a certain
Yeah.
extent as well. It's a little bit different than the Batman one because
Yeah.
he's not bouncing around he's bouncing around his own life,
Right.
In the Captain America
in very
comic.
specific, crystallized moments of
Right.
his life.
What
Right.
was it mechanically that caused that for Captain America? Because I wasn't crazy about that idea. I really liked the end of that character.
At the end of Civil War.
Yeah, so what mechanically caused that in the Marvel universe?
I believe it was a time bullet.
It was he was
Sure.
shot by a time
I don't-
bullet.
I don't
I'm almost
precisely
sure
know.
it was. In fact.
I haven't actually read Rebirth specifically.
Oh, I have. It's been a little while. It's whatever the bullet that shot him. I'm almost. It's a time bullet, which is basically what happened to Batman as well.
Well,
However, Batman
got hit
built
by
his own
time
bullets.
eye lasers.
Yes,
Yes.
which that in Final Crisis, that moment when he shoots Darkseid with the time bullet is pretty awesome.
Yeah, he's going to end a god. He's
Yeah.
made a bullet to end a god.
But that they sent the man on the Justice League
Yep.
to kill the
it's
god
not Superman there.
is
No.
pretty awesome.
It's Batman, of course. Who else?
Yeah, exactly. He's
Yeah.
the one. And then you got shot with you got shot with a time laser.
it
basically.
was like a
Yeah.
ricochet, and then all of a
Well,
sudden
it's the weird Omega beams that are beep, 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 beep,
But
and,
yeah.
swerving around.
Yeah, exactly. So
That's a good word. Swerving.
I mean,
yeah.
I'd have no other way of describing it. I
That's
don't know.
fair. Yeah, that's fair.
if I remember correctly,
Just squiggly swerve. Swerve.
if I remember correctly, and if I'm wrong, someone will let us know. I'm sure.
sure.
It was basically a time bullet that also sent Captain America
for sure.
back.
time bullets. They'll get you every time and place.
Time bullets are all over the place. Apparently, you got to really watch out for those. But yeah, another set of characters that I think is interesting. And
What if Ben? Whoa! I just thought of this.
Uh-oh.
Peter Parker's Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
What if that was a time bullet in that robber's gun, and we're gonna get a comic someday of Uncle Ben, and he's not gonna come back, but just like what he does in, I don't know,
medieval Europe.
I'm now thinking of every significant bullet, and they're all now time bullets.
Bruce Wayne's parents as well.
JFK, time bullet.
Wow.
Let's just bring it. It wasn't a magic bullet. It was a time bullet.
No, magic bullet's what I make my smoothies in.
Yeah.
yes. But something I was going to say, another sort of set of characters that have this kind of cable thing or whatever going on for them is the Legion of Superheroes.
Oh, yeah.
Over at DC.
Though they were an interesting... how DC handled them was interesting.
Oh, sure.
In that they refused to for the longest time.
Well, they're a weird relic of the Silver Age when it was just like Superman gets visited by these superheroes who are from, I don't remember what year they're from exactly.
3000 something.
Yeah, it's a distant future. Yes, it is. It's like 3001 or something like that. I don't know, whatever it is.
Futurama times.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I think if you look in the Legion of Superheroes are running around somewhere. But they come back and visit Superman, who is like a mythic legend to them at this point. And they kind of just pal around with them. Like I don't really know that there's any specific reason why they come back.
They don't really have a mission.
Not that I remember.
I haven't read these, but I got to imagine they come back to like fight some kind of time villain.
No, I think they come back to like because they come back and they were introduced in a Superboy, not in Superman.
Right.
So they come back and they meet teenage Clark Kent.
Right, because this was this whole Superboy thing. Oy, oy, oy.
Right. Because there was this whole idea about like we want to see the young adventures of Superman, so they started writing the Superboy comic, which is about Superman when he's a teenager.
Not the Superboy that I know and love, which is a clone of Superman.
Right, exactly. That's the '90s Superboy, or maybe '80s. I don't know, somewhere in there.
Superboy Prime.
Anywhere. Yeah, that's the Superboy I think of as well. But there used to be a comic called Superboy that was about teenage Superman. But that was, and so I think part of it was like we have to inspire him to become Superman or something like that. I think it was something like, or maybe it eventually became that. I don't know if that was how it started. That feels a little lofty for a Silver Age comic. But yeah, and I think I primarily know them through Jeff Johns' reintroduction of them in Superman Secret Origin, where it sort of did become that. Where it's like we're going to help him on his path to becoming Superman.
And see, that's an interesting. We start into. I want to discuss this, and I realize, John, you're probably going to hate me for it, but like the two big delineations of like time travel stories.
There we go. This is, I mean, this conversation is kind of all over the place, but I knew somewhere it would end up back here.
We've halted this conversation on the show before.
We have, and
we're ready for it.
This is it. We've come in and prepared.
Okay.
The next 4 hours are set.
So,
ladies and gentlemen, it begins now.
We've got
you can stop the podcast.
But
now.
I think, like, especially in comic books, we see these like two delineations of time travel stories. We see ones with the singular timeline, the like self-fulfilling prophecy, the like everything you go back in time and do, you've already done. So it's like no matter what you do, you're never going to change the future, like an inevitability sort of
like
thing.
A Terminator,
right? Terminator sort of a thing. And then you've got the multiple worlds theory, which is kind of more what Marvel does.
Yes,
in that, it's definitely what Marvel does.
Certainly,
in that every choice you make splinters reality and creates these multiple timelines.
Right.
And you traveling to the future isn't necessarily you like going through time in your own timeline. You're simply traveling to a different dimension in which a random set of circumstances occurred.
Yes. Now DC has it both ways.
Right.
Because there is very much a singular timeline.
Does it treat both of them as separate things, or are they just being very fast and loose?
No. They treat them as separate things because there's this idea that we're on a singular timeline, but we're not the only Earth, and so there are multiple other dimensions basically that also have their own singular timelines.
Interesting.
Which, if you're the Flash, you can go between.
Yes, and that will that will bring me to one of the stories I want to talk about, which is Flashpoint.
Oh,
which is Barry Allen. His mother was killed when he was a child, and he goes back and saves her. But by doing that, creates a dystopian future where
the butterfly effect.
Where Wonder Woman and Aquaman are at war with one another, where Bruce Wayne was killed instead of his parents, and his father becomes Batman, and his mother becomes the Joker. And one of the craziest parts of it, where it's like his father became all about justice, and his mother became all about chaos. and so they fractured and turned into enemies with one another. I'm trying to remember what else is going on in that comic, but I mean, those are sort of the big points of it.
Is that an ongoing thing right now? Or is that
No. This was a few years ago.
This was like right before the New 52.
Oh,
yeah,
fantastic.
It was sort of in that kind of.
If anything, Flashpoint was kind of the thing that, like, once they blew up the universe a little bit with that, they used that to kind of reset things.
Well, I mean, the end of Flashpoint is Flash resetting everything because he goes. He has to go back and let his mother die. I mean, it's basically a choice between her or the world to a certain extent. Because I mean, it's going to end up being an apocalyptic scenario with the war between Themyscira and Atlantis. Mm-hmm. It's a super intense story. It's really good. It's Jeff Johns. Is great. There's also a movie of it out for people who want to watch.
I still haven't watched that.
Justice League: The Flashpoint Paradox is called.
Is that on Netflix or?
I think it might be.
Okay, cool.
I think it might
I'll
be.
check that
A lot of them are. Are they not anymore? Did they get taken off?
The only things on Netflix right now, I know this off the top of my head. First season of Young Justice, both seasons of both Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. Yep. I believe Batman Beyond is still up.
Yeah, season 1. Yeah.
And that's pretty much it.
Okay, all right. Well, I don't know. But anyway,
Brave and the Bold.
I don't think that's on anymore.
Not anymore?
I don't think so.
that might be on Hulu. I don't know. Oh. Some of them are on Hulu.
You can look it up for yourself. You all have the internet.
Anyway,
no, we need
you
to
can track it down.
Decide, and then call Netflix and tell them what to put up and what to put down.
We have that power.
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Give us time.
You didn't know we had that power?
No, we do?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
We can get anything put on Netflix.
Oh no!
I wasn't
broke
supposed
our
to
contract.
say.
Say
Now we
that.
can never do it again.
Now
we
we've all
can't.
lost it, John.
Now we can't. Sorry.
Nobody can play with that toy anymore.
I didn't even get to abuse this power.
Sorry.
Damn it.
That's all right. Donovan and I abused it for like 5 years straight.
So you guys are to blame, huh?
That explains all those Korean soap operas.
Hey, man, I can't resist them.
I
I got to know what happens on Vampire Attorney. I've got to know. By the
Tell
way,
me that show actually exists.
it's totally a real Korean soap opera.
Oh, man.
Go out and watch Vampire Attorney.
That's our recommendation.
But yeah. So the what was I saying? Oh yeah, the Flashpoint. Yeah, find the Flashpoint paradox. Whatever. But yeah, this idea that there are two different approaches. DC does have it both ways.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily. I mean,
But there's also times where they just completely ignore that. Like, Booster Gold is from the future.
Well, now you're just hitting all my notes here. Booster Gold is another character we have to talk
I'm looking at your
about.
notes right now.
Yeah.
They're not out on the table, but
Can I
I'm
see
reading
those,
them.
actually?
Yeah, you want to take a look at them there,
Yeah.
Lissman?
Ooh, Lissman, how very insightful that you brought that up.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
But Booster Gold is from the future.
Yes.
But he doesn't affect anything.
This is true.
He's just like, psh, whatever. Rip Time Hunter. Like, he's
Or
kinda,
Rip Hunter. Yeah.
Rip Hunter. What did I say?
Rip Hunter Time
but again,
Master.
That's what I meant.
the assumption that in that singular timeline, they've already gone back in time. So anything they've done has already affected the future they're coming from.
Because Booster Gold sort of uses time travel
That's
to
true.
propel himself as a superhero.
Right.
Which is awesome.
He's just from the future, so he has high enough technology so he can go back in time to make himself look good.
Yeah.
Because
pretty cool.
He's
Yeah.
a really
As
fun
would we
character.
all if we had time
yeah.
travel.
I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he knows
I just
something's
read a
gonna
series
happen, so
of
he can
books
be there.
that was so they unlock like secrets of the universe. What do they do with these like crazy some would say magical powers? They go back to medieval England and pretend to be wizards.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Because what else would you do with those kinds of powers?
Makes sense. I mean, and that is that very Booster Gold kind of approach to time travel of like, I'm going to make myself look awesome.
They've been doing a lot, not that specifically, but so much time travel. Sorry for the spoilers on the CW Flash show
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well, the Flash in general has a lot of time travel.
because he can
in it.
travel fast enough.
Yeah.
he can run back in time or forward in time,
Or to other
Sideways in
dimensions. or
time.
to-
sideways in time, and
Yeah.
you've got our crazy friend Reverse Flash who's making it difficult, and he's from the future.
Yeah, I mean, his arch nemesis is a guy from the future. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
that's awesome.
That show definitely presents a more singular timeline where he's already gone back in time because like we saw in near the finale of season 1 where Barry goes back in time to presumably save his mom.
Yeah.
And then he sees himself.
I know when there was 2 Flashes in the
And
past.
himself looks up and knows he's going to be there because he remembers going back in time to try to save his mom. And he's just like,
Oh man,
yeah, that was pretty rough.
Yep.
oh so good.
But again, that show is
That finale
presenting.
was amazing.
Yeah.
But then again, we also have like we'll see like days at a time where they'll like present an alternate timeline.
Yes.
And then they'll go back. So then we're kind of getting more Zemeckisian
So it's definitely more like the comics, where there's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Yeah.
DC likes to pick and choose.
I like to call that Zemeckis time travel.
So
sure.
Here's where this conversation leads, because people are like, that didn't sound very controversial. Gorgoni, you're a man with very strong opinions about time travel as it applies to storytelling.
Yes. Look, I think you need to adhere to one of those two ideas, or else things like start to make sense. At least to me. And like I realize, so long as it's serving the story. I mean, and you're talking to a guy who enjoys Doctor Who, so like wibbly wobbly.
Because I mean, that my argument is whatever works for what the plot is doing.
I know.
But I think what Gorgoni has constantly been arguing is that there needs to be an internal logic in the structure of this universe.
Sure, absolutely.
Like obviously in the DC universe, there's Superman.
Yeah.
And is there actually people who can fly? No. So obviously there's some sort of physics, like difference in the laws of physics. However, what Gorgoni is arguing is that it's not always consistent. It doesn't. There needs to be a logic to it.
Sure,
that's what I want.
Yeah.
So do you have issues with like not a comic? Well, like technically now a comic, but Back to the Future.
Well, let's talk about Back to the Future, because this is one of the most contentious debates you and I have had about time travel.
Yes, it is.
I believe it's said on the show that Back to the Future is potentially my favorite movie of all time.
I believe
great
so.
film, yeah.
I believe I've said that they're great movies, but they need different titles.
That's right. That came up. I think that came up on my other podcast as well.
Oh, was it on this podcast? No, it's okay.
Okay, let's do this, and then we'll get into it. Then Gorgoni will come to blows about Back to the Future.
Okay, let's put that off as long as possible.
So, Back to the Present.
Yeah.
Back from the Future.
Yeah.
Back from the Past.
Yeah.
That's what it should be called.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Or the third one could also be called Time Train. Because that's the most important part of that movie.
And the tagline is just all aboard,
choo choo,
choo choo.
I love
this
that.
summer.
Time train.
Yeah, they invent the.
Hang on, I'm glad they didn't call it that, because we need to start writing Time Train right now.
Yeah.
It's a combination of Speed and Back to the Future.
Yep.
But unfortunately, in ours, they can't invent the first.
All aboard the Time Train, but also it can't stop.
Yeah. So that's. I mean, those are great movies. I don't really like the second one that much, but those are.
It's the weakest one.
Those
for
are
sure.
those are great movies. However, they need to change. I would like them to.
They need to change?
I think they
titles.
need to
okay.
retroactively change all of the titles.
They need to reissue Blu-rays of the. Anyway, Gorgoni. It is a comic, so this is why I feel we can talk about it. And and in the loosest, and hell, it's our show, goddammit. So I will talk about whatever the hell I want, and I want to talk about Back to the Future.
Let it be stated for the record that John is bringing up Back to the Future with me. Let's do this.
We're talking time travel, and there's no better time travel movie to me than Back to the Future. So
Oh, really?
there may be no better movie to me than Back to the Future. So
I will argue it is a great movie. I love Back to the Future. Its time travel does not hold up. Why the hell is he seeing himself fade?
Why not?
Physics?
Yeah, so what Gorgoni's argument here, I think, is...
He's becoming frighteners for some reason.
Yeah, so his parents...
He was also in that.
No, I realize it's a joke, John. Thank you.
If his
Wait,
parents...
he's becoming another Michael J. Fox?
Yes, he's becoming another Michael J.
didn't know
Fox.
it was actually a
different film.
crossover.
Well,
Crossover movie.
I thought, he saw that scene and he was like, "Hey, I think that I have another idea for a movie. People disappearing."
Oh, so
I like
that was his idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
I think Michael J. Fox wrote Frighteners, didn't he?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, pretty sure.
IMDb just confirmed it.
Yep. I have just
Wikipedia says
changed
it right
Wikipedia,
here, yeah.
You know, a bunch of people now, after you just said that, are like, "What the hell is that? Was that right?"
Yes, it was. You disproved me.
Don't question our logic.
Look, but it's once again that's it works in that movie because that's what's happening. Like, I don't see how it's violating anything within that film.
I think it works as a narrative, like visual narrative
absolutely.
device. I think, but if you think about it, it's like, well, if he never existed, then why is
or how can he's becoming Schrodinger's Michael J. Fox at a certain point?
Yeah.
Like if he's fading, then like is he being shunted to a different timeline? Is he just like going to stop existing altogether?
I think he's going to stop
never been
existing
born.
altogether. Yeah.
Then how could he have affected anything up until that point?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Because that first incident...
I mean,
that's my point.
That's a big.
He seems to be affecting the probability of his existence as opposed to his actual existence. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so when he hits 50% and he's all like weird and ghosty,
Yeah.
like
No ghosting.
No ghosting.
There's only now a 50% chance that Michael J. Fox will exist, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, if he's inside a box, he's either existing or non-existing at the same time.
But his actions are affecting the probability of what the answer to that will be.
Right. But if he was already in the present,
from a physics standpoint, you're right. That doesn't make any sense.
Yes.
From a movie storytelling standpoint, it's pretty genius. Actually, it's a pretty brilliant device.
I mean, it is a visual cue that people can easily understand,
and
provided they don't think too hard about it.
What I'm saying, though, what it's doing is it's reaffirming the stakes of the story.
Yes, absolutely.
It's giving you it's the ticking clock.
But
movies need a ticking
clock.
How
I feel about it is that it's sort of it's eating it has its cake and it's eating it too. It has the singular timeline, which is an interesting philosophical idea.
Right.
It's like no matter what I do, that's how it is, because that's just, you can't change what's already happened, even if you're traveling through time. But that's introducing an amount of free will. So he, through free will, is changing that timeline and erasing himself. So it's like it wants the singular timeline, but also, which sort of fate is sort of necessary for that.
Yeah.
The idea of fate is sort of necessary for that idea.
Right.
So it wants that, but it also is adding free will, which is sort of erasing him from time. So philosophically, it doesn't quite make sense.
Talking about the second movie.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
We can get. I mean, yeah. I don't know that you and I have ever talked about Back to the Future Part 2.
It never gets there.
Nor has anyone else.
It never gets there. People just leave angry, and it never gets there.
Well, okay. So if we take all of the time travel ideas established in Back to the Future 1, fine. I'll accept that Schrodinger's Michael J. Fox for now. Then he's back in time, watching himself do all of those things and tinkering around with the first movie, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah. So why isn't he disappearing while Michael J. Fox is stumbling around doing? That's what I'm getting. Like the movie switches ideas about time travel, and then we get back to the singular timeline in the third one.
And actually, Schrodinger's that whole theory is not. He wouldn't be fading if that were the case. It's literally creating two pocket dimensions.
Right.
Yeah.
And since we're observing him, he is like. Anyway.
Yeah.
But he does create an alternate timeline.
In 2, he does. Yeah.
Well, and he goes from Biff
thus breaking from the singular timeline that going back in the time. So when he's in the future, that's an alternate timeline that he's working to prevent.
Can't this
Your kids are jerks.
Can't this be a third approach to time travel that's both, though?
Yeah, it's called Zemeckisian, and I hate it.
Yeah. But that's what I don't understand is, why do you hate it? I mean, why? Well, I mean, really?
Because there's no consistent logic.
Well, but there is to a certain extent, because, I mean, he's making up the logic as he's going along. Like, when you are watching the movies, it really, like...
Younger Gunny was going, that doesn't make any sense.
Was he, though? Was he?
Yes.
Okay, then I'm just saying, there's a reason those movies are so popular. I feel
Michael J. Fox.
Yes,
Michael J. Fox.
But I feel like Zemeckis does a good job of, at least in the moment, presenting you with what's happening. Zemeckis' whole approach is, I don't care about physics. I don't care about all this stuff. What I care about are stakes, emotional stakes.
No, and that's
what and so what I'm saying is, as movies, those are great, riveting films that I care about what's happening. They're fun. They're just meant to be fun.
No, fine. Yeah, yes. No, I know.
What you're saying isn't invalid. But I just don't think Zemeckis cares.
Sure,
and I don't think I don't think that's a flaw of the movies.
I'm going to end this conversation like we end all of our conversations about this movie, and that's I'll agree to disagree, John. Because I'll say this: I can watch the first Back to the Future. I can watch the third Back to the Future. I can't watch the second one. It drives me up a wall.
Okay.
Like, I can't stop thinking about it.
Okay.
Something about how my nerd brain works, and like time travel is a subject that I'm pretty passionate about. In that, like, I like the idea of playing with time in these different delineations, whether it be the singular timeline or these multiple worlds, and seeing someone just throw that crap out the window and not even like, it drives me insane.
Yeah.
That's why, like, Looper's another movie where we've had some contention on.
Looper might be the number 2 of my favorite time travel movies.
I love Looper.
Yeah. Absolutely that movie I just think is fantastic.
It's great.
Now, Lissman, you haven't seen it.
I have not
so,
seen it.
To a certain extent, we need to be a little careful with where we're going.
I'm just going to bring up one specific part in Looper that, like, as I was watching...
I've already seen this example that you're bringing up,
the one where the guy's body parts are...
And here's the same thing. I believe our arguments are exactly the same on this as well.
No, it's true.
They are straight up using Zemeckisian time travel logic.
But That's one of the best scenes in the movie. From a filmmaking standpoint and from a screenwriting standpoint, that's awesome. That's an awesome scene.
And it was cool looking at...
the best scene is when Bruce Willis still has a little bit of hair.
That was pretty disturbing, actually.
Yeah,
that took me out of the movie for a moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's why I like getting back to comic books a little bit.
Yeah, I guess we should.
I know. What Marvel has done to a certain extent with the billions of alternate realities that they've set up with all these different timelines is that was cool to me. Mm-hmm. That was just okay, here is all of these delineations spread out for us, and there's going to be crossover, there's back and forth of all these timelines interacting, and it's freaking bonkers. But I really like that they're delineating all of these things and not just
not
being
so much anymore.
They've
just collapsed.
I am
everything.
going to be really fascinated to see how they handle some of that time, especially because considering the pre-Secret War stuff is still canon.
Yeah.
How do they handle the fact that Bishop is from a slightly alternate timeline from Rachel Summers or Cable, or
I
if
haven't
they've
seen
all just
many of those characters show up yet.
Yeah, I know. That's why
I know Cable has a
Yeah,
miniseries with Deadpool right now.
Yeah.
That's the only time. But he's. In what I've read of the new X books, he's not around.
Yeah,
nor is Bishop.
Yeah, that's what I'm very interested to see.
Or
what happens.
how the fact that they're not from another version of reality.
Well, from what I understand, post Secret Wars is barring very few characters. There's a few floating around.
Yes, this I don't like.
That everyone thinks this is how the world has always been.
Don't like this.
Really?
Don't like it.
Why?
Because then it doesn't matter that all the other stuff was canon.
Well, but again, there's still those. There's a few characters running around who
Vision remembers.
Vision remembers. Miles Morales remembers, if I'm not mistaken.
He might. I haven't actually read any of the Miles Morales stuff.
I want to say Thor remembers.
Gee, if she does, it hasn't come up in the comic that I've read so far.
Guy Thor.
Oh, he's just not around.
Right, but I'm pretty sure he's. I haven't read the end of Secret War, so I don't know if he survived or not.
I don't either. Well, he's missing.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming he survived. Because in Mighty Thor right now, there's a lot of talk about we don't know where he is.
Right. So there's a few but I'll be interested to see going forward, because those characters remember.
Yeah.
So if they were just writing it off completely, then no one would remember. But because they're not, there's going to be consequences for this sort of thing.
And I hope there is.
So it's not just they're throwing it out the window. Everyone just thinks that's how it was.
I will say, amnesia worries me whenever I see it.
Sure.
Just pop up.
But this isn't.
That is a pretty trite sort of narrative device.
It's a dangerous thing to play around with.
Yeah.
But is it amnesia?
Well, it's not clinical amnesia, but I'm using that in a colloquial sense to explain that people don't remember something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the fact that Old Man Logan's running around, or the fact that
that's awesome.
Well, then you're having your cake and eating it too.
No, I like that Old Man Logan's running around.
Sure,
but
why isn't everyone going? Why are you so old, Logan?
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I have no problem with the idea that people from different universes, but the idea that they don't know that they're from different universes,
or that everyone is oh yeah, Miles Morales, he's been around the whole time,
right?
And not that Peter Parker died that one time,
right? Exactly.
Well, I'm sure in 616 he has died a couple of times at this point.
Oh, did,
so
yeah. He kind of died during the Superior Spider-Man stuff, sort of.
Sort of.
That's good.
Emotionally, he died.
Yeah, he's emotionally dead.
Physiologically, no.
Another thing that would just be traumatizing was what happened? One of my arch nemesis was inside of my body. I don't know that you would ever get over that. But that's something comics can do. Is just ignore a lot of emotional turmoil these characters would be.
There's a lot of emotional turmoil in that.
There's emotional turmoil, but the decades of therapy would be required to fully get over
You mean snapping your girlfriend's back? The decades of therapy they would have to go. And
pretty sure you wouldn't be Spider-Man.
There's a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I'll mope a bit.
Sad.
But
sad. Ooh, who's Black Cat? She looks pretty good.
That's one of his superpowers. He gets over a woman really easy.
Real quick.
Yeah.
No, that's Daredevil's.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Daredevil superpower.
It's most of the Marvel universe.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. They all have that James Bond ability to not care
Iron
about
Man
women.
usually is pretty
Yeah.
Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Most Hawkeyes.
Yeah.
Well, the problem with Hawkeye is they keep following him around.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, his girls don't die. He just breaks up with them, and then they're still. He's like, no.
And then it's awkward.
Yeah.
Like real life.
Yeah. Hawkeye has the most realistic relationships with women. It's just like, hey.
How's it going? Look, we got to work together to save the world, but who's this awkward?
Yikes.
But yeah, like undoing the ramifications of time travel has always been something interesting in comic books.
Oh, sure.
How they go about doing that, whether it's just like ignoring it, or the fact
never happened.
DC.
Well, but DC also, and DC has never tried to be. It has never had the focus on continuity that Marvel has.
That's true.
And we've talked about that on the show. There are pros and cons to that. For sure. I mean, there says, well, didn't that thing happen? Well, that's not the same version of Superman. Right. But at the same time, you're also not beholden to things in that same way. You could do an event like Secret Wars and just have it end, and there are no this start again.
Right.
Because it's just like, well, no, that just happened. That was that story. I mean, do you think I mean, this is almost a different conversation, but like, is there a point where Marvel will say enough is enough and let's just kick this whole thing back to how it started? And I mean, to a certain extent, Ultimate was that.
That's what Ultimate was.
Right, but they still kept the DC the Marvel continuity.
Yeah, the original continuity. I thought that's what Secret Wars was going to be. Like,
no, all Secret Wars is it collapsed all the side universes.
Yeah, so I heard that they did that. It just when I first heard about it, like a big climactic.
Yeah, I think everybody thought it was going to do the New 52 thing. Of like, by the way, we're meeting all these characters again.
I was kind of excited about that. In some ways.
I mean, I look as once again, there are pros and cons of continuity, but like I don't. I mean, I know maybe just. I mean, this is interesting, Grigoni. Would that be like my life? Does it mean anything anymore? Like all these years, if they would just be like it's all new number ones. They're all new characters, basically.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm getting pretty sick of number ones over the last like 10 years.
Yeah. We don't need any more. But I mean, almost
almost to an extent where it's like make the number ones mean something then.
Yeah,
because like right now they have number ones, but who cares?
All new, all different.
But they're not that new, and they're not that different.
Pretty new.
If they pushed the big red button on the Marvel Universe and like just nuked everything, that would be one of the ballsiest moves that they could ever do. And I would kind of feel a little slighted, I feel like. Plus, I think they would run into the same problem that the Ultimate Universe did, was eventually it started to feel pretty samey. Like they got to a point where they were kind of like rehashing some of these older stories, and they're doing them in like some of them were in new and interesting ways. Some of them just felt like, okay, we're doing this again.
And then, I mean, wow, I'll take this conversation down this road, though, to a certain extent away from time travel. Is there any way to avoid that, really?
I mean,
or are there only so many stories you can tell?
Conversation about time travel, more about like fate, I guess, to a certain extent.
That's usually part of these time travel stories, but like
it's cyclical,
But to a certain extent, isn't it like how many Spider-Man stories can you tell?
I don't know. I mean, Bendis got Clone Wars, right? What else do you want?
Yeah, but he went back to Clone Wars, and he did
not
it right.
Clone Wars, but
Clone Saga.
Yeah.
He also got the Clone Wars right too. That was really weird when he was fighting.
He did great work on that show. Yeah.
When Spider-Man showed up in the middle of Clone
too.
Wars, I was like, "What the hell's going on?"
That was something I was going to bring up. Are we going to get to a stage like we just did in Star Wars, where they're like, some of this direct canon, all this other stuff really good and not exactly canon anymore?
Yeah.
I feel like they already
do that?
sort of did that with a lot of the Silver Age stuff. Like if you look at Marvel continuity post, like I want to say like late 90s, like they take certain things as rote. And they kind of worked to ignore a lot of other stuff from like Silver Age.
But in Star Wars, they very definitively said, this yes, this no. Do you think there's ever going to be a defining moment where Marvel's like, everything published between here and here? Nope. Here and here? Yep. Like, these characters do no...
Well, because what they're doing now with Secret Wars is, to a certain extent, they've bent over backwards to make everything matter. Like Ultimates is now canon. That was happening parallel to this. And it's almost like...
Well, we already knew that was happening parallel, like, I mean, I got to wonder if that was part of Hickman's master plan, the whole Spider-Man thing.
But I mean, but it was almost like, I kind of like that the Ultimates was their own thing, unconnected. And as cool as it is to see, like, Miles Morales pal around with Miss Marvel...
Oh, they're the best.
They're great. So cool. They're great. It's great stuff. And I love one of my favorite books at Marvel right now is Nova. Mm-hmm. And I think they're doing a great job with that, and they're part of that as well. And that's fun. But I did feel when Ultimates first started, boy, wasn't that exciting, really.
Oh, Ultimate Spider-Man was one of the most exciting
But Ultimate Spider-Man, Ultimates, the beginning of Ultimate Fantastic Four, all these things, it was like, there was almost like, it was like fresh air to a certain extent.
You know the one that started the feeling samey vibe for me? That was Ultimate X-Men. Ultimate X-Men, felt fresh at first because we had kind of Claremont's lineup right from the get-go.
Yeah.
So seeing that lineup of X-Men right from the start of the X-Team...
The beginning of that is so good.
Oh, yeah. But it started, especially once we started getting into some of the Apocalypse stuff, it felt a little... I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But it felt like, okay, we're kind of, rehashing a lot of storylines from X-Men here.
Sort of Into Darkness style?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I will say that, in terms of elegantly done time travel, the new Star Trek movies kind of.
Yeah.
I feel like they did it right.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Yeah, absolutely.
I agree.
Because what they do is they get time echoes of the original series. That's what I love. It's there's elements there. There's character traits that are still there, but they're not beholden to.
Well, and to a certain extent, they've even talked about this. There is an aspect of fate or destiny to that, where it's the Captain Kirk will fight Khan at some point. That was going to happen no matter what universe. There will always be a Jim Kirk and there will always be a Khan. And at some point in whatever version, they will clash with one another.
Yeah. And Ultimate started to feel a little bit like that, where it's inevitably some of this stuff is going to happen.
And I like that. I like the whole run of Ultimate X-Men. Even if it did rehash, I never felt like it was... I never felt in it where I was just I've read this.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, this is familiar ground. But they were always trotting it in what I thought was a respectful and in some ways a better way, because a lot of that stuff they had cool ideas, but the writing of it was not fantastic.
Clone Saga is a perfect example of this.
Absolutely. In fact, I think it's the best example of it.
Ultimate Clone Saga. The original Clone Saga is a mess.
Oh, terrible. One of the most notoriously terrible. At the very least, Spider-Man, if not Marvel, if not comic book story arcs,
But yeah, and Bendis did an amazing job of it wasn't the same story because the original story was a mess and it didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And
he gave us the beloved Ben Reilly, though, right?
And wow, Scarlet Spider. He definitely had that jean vest. I'll say that much. Yeah. I'll say that much.
My very favorite thing in the worworld.
Spider-Man.
Jean vests?
Jean vests.
Wearing a cut-off jean vest. Imagine Spider-Man wearing one of those over his suit.
Is there anywhere where I can sign up for that?
Listen,
right here.
We will find who you need to contact about that, and we will get you.
Yeah, I
their name.
Swear to God, in one of the late '90s Spider-Man games for the PlayStation, you could unlock a Ben Reilly costume for Spider-Man.
God.
And I did that, and I was just why?
Wasn't that the Dimensions one or whatever?
No. This was one of the original PlayStation ones.
Oh, I don't think I ever played this game, but yikes!
Was this pre-existing the movie franchise game?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And it was I know a lot of the openings of the episodes or the chapters of the game was narrated by Stan Lee. They were great.
Oh, okay.
The games were just pretty,
listen up, true believers.
Pretty standard beat 'em ups,
sure.
3D beat 'em ups.
Yeah.
But it was I was getting a Spider-Man video game, so I was pretty happy with it.
Oh man, we used to accept so much crap just because it was we got so little superhero product that was just it's got Spider-Man on it. We'll take it. We will take it.
It unlocked one of the costumes that could unlock there was an alternate version of Spider-Man where he got he became Captain Universe and he got the power cosmic.
Oh my god!
And the weird blue Starfield suit.
Wow. And that was a playable character.
That was a playable character in the game.
Nice.
Awesome. Now I'm just remembering that game fondly. I'm sure it's a pile of garbage if I went and tracked down my.
It can only be. It can only be. I mean, a lot of that stuff was. But yeah, the Ultimate Universe. I mean, that sort of gets into this also debate. We were talking about time travel versus alternate universes versus Zemeckis.
One of my favorite, and not to bookend what we've been doing, but one of my favorite time travel stories is in X-Men. Mm-hmm. It's when Bendis was all right, Hank McCoy, you're going to go back in time and grab the original 5 X-Men to stop Cyclops, who's now basically kind of a psychopath.
And
he's a terrorist
to be fair,
leader.
No one in that book was saying, "Okay, Hank McCoy, you should do this now." That was Hank McCoy going, "I'm going to do this now."
Exactly.
I believe what Donovan was saying was Brian Michael Bendis saying
Right.
that. Too.
Yeah, and he goes back in time and brings them forward in time so that Cyclops can see
how much of a monster he is.
Yeah, and stop that, and then they just don't go back in time. Like they're like current, and what I like about that is the other X-Men stories feel like there's an end goal. Like stop this future. Oh, do this, talk to this person, kill this person, don't let this person be killed, and everything's right. This is like just come forward into the future, and I think he wanted him to go back.
Oh, no. They definitely wanted to go back at first, and then there was a problem, and they couldn't, and now they're kind of stuck.
And then this is when Cyclops becomes a space pirate with his dad, which is
yes,
awesome.
the past version of Cyclops goes
Scott
goes into space to find his father and ends up becoming a space pirate with him,
which is so cool.
Which is a really fun book.
Thank you.
I think we'd all do that.
The Greg Rucka book. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What, you gonna pass up an opportunity to be a space pirate?
Absolutely not.
That is a super fun book, though. Go
cool.
and read Greg Rucka's Cyclops. It's a lot of fun.
Do any of you guys own that? That sounds
I
fantastic.
do, yeah.
I will have to borrow that.
Absolutely, yeah.
But the other portion of it is
That was mostly get Jean Grey back, right?
yeah. Yeah,
but they did it in a way where I wasn't like, oh, they're bringing Jean Grey back.
and the interesting thing they do with that
we can talk about. We don't need to talk about how they brought her back before, but
is they instantly put her on trial for crimes that she hasn't committed
and
which is so
that was
good.
some Minority Report stuff.
It was so good.
the crossover with Guardians that happened there was a lot of
Trial
fun.
of Jean Grey.
Trial of Jean Grey.
Shi'ar is the
They're a bunch of bird jerks.
they're bird jerks, and they are
Steal
like
a line from Rachel and Miles.
Rachel and Miles, and
That's right.
Yeah, space bird jerks, and they are like, no, we still hate you for this, and she's like, I haven't done anything. They're like, nope, you're going to, or you could.
This was a storyline that when I heard about it, I was like, well, that's stupid. No, why would you do that? I'm like, oh, X-Men, you are out of ideas now. We're bringing. Man, I loved it.
It works so
it's
well.
So good. I shame on me for ever doubting Brian Michael Bendis, but man, did he kill it on that book! I thought I really what it's done for the X-Men universe now. If you read the myriad of X-Men titles that are out there,
there's lots.
Extraordinary X-Men, All New X-Men, Uncanny X-Men. There might just be a book called X-Men too. I don't remember.
Adjectiveless X-Men.
I think there is. Yeah, but
Or
anyway,
did that just end? Because that was the G. Willow Wilson. She did that.
yeah, I don't know. That's the
I don't
thing.
know. I think
When
that's
I don't know what I mean, Marvel's still doing new number ones.
Oh yeah,
for the foreseeable future. So who knows how many more X-Men books they get? They still don't have an X-Force title.
Ooh, that's going to change.
I'm sure there's going to be a new X-Force. But
Punisher #1 is going to happen after Daredevil 2.
Well, there already is a new Punisher #1 that's been announced. Becky Cloonan's doing it.
Oh, I didn't know
Ooh,
that.
Interesting.
Oh yeah. Oh man, I was telling you about this because I said she's describing it as a cross between Rambo and Friday the 13th.
Right, yeah.
Which is a great pitch for a Punisher book
Or any book.
I'm very excited about that. She also really wants to ground it more in like it's a noir crime story.
I will say, just read chunks of Spider-Gwen.
Yeah.
Frank Castle's pretty great in that.
Oh yeah, he is. Yeah, he totally is. But yeah, but anyway, in these things, like the gist of All New X-Men is Scott Summers from the past, the young Scott Summers, is walking around with a terrorist's face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you do that? I mean, like, how do you go through life knowing that a future version of you that's not you does unthinkable crimes?
Well, and this was going to be. We never had this come up on the show before. This was going to be one of my recommendations. All New X-Men. But what's so
it's a great book.
It's really, really good.
Yeah. I want to start collecting the trades of it.
It's Dennis Hopeless.
I'll read anything by Hopeless.
Hopeless is great, and Mark Bagley are doing the art. And now there's these people who are cropping up, and they are like on the side of the old terrorist Cyclops, but not at all affiliated, and they're like doing crimes in his name. Mm-hmm. And the young Scott is like, "What's going on? Like, how I'm responsible for these guys, but I'm also not responsible for these. Like, how do you reconcile all this?" So he's laying low when you meet him, but it's great. That book is great, and I really, really like the all new Wolverine.
Oh, yeah.
Laura, I mean, it's so good.
But I like all of the reactions we see of the young
yeah,
X-Men's reaction to their older selves.
Yeah.
Where we have like Hank McCoy seeing that like he's kind of become a weird blue cat monster mad scientist. It's like, how did that end up happening? Or like Angel became Death for Apocalypse. What happened there?
Yeah, and kind of just went crazy.
Yeah, and the whole Iceman thing with him, his like younger, I'm not sure how I feel about the whole like Jean Grey outing him as younger Iceman as being gay. I'm like, because that was like straight up like, oh, by the way, you're gay, right?
An invasion of his privacy.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
When was that? Our timeline. Sorry. When was that published?
2 years ago.
Oh, 2 years ago.
I
Okay, so
wanna
that's
say
a relatively
like,
recent
maybe
thing.
last year. Even.
Very recent.
Okay.
1 or 2 years ago at the most.
Okay.
Because it's in Bendis's like recent run of all new X-Men.
I mean, she's a telepath, so she's just like, "Oh, I can hear your thoughts. You're gay."
And she just says it out loud, and everybody's like,
Well, I don't know that she says it in front of everybody.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, she just says it to him.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's not like, by the way, everyone, I found out that Iceman's gay.
I feel like
That
if
would
it was
be-
written like 15 years earlier, that would be how they would handle it.
And if it was written during the Stan Lee era, it would have been like, Iceman's gay. Get out.
Which
Yeah.
Get him. We're okay with him being a mutant, but being gay?
That's just.
But we still
not in our X-Men.
let's ignore our central metaphor and get him.
It was one of those like,
Get him.
one of
Says
those,
Charles
like-
Xavier in all caps.
Well,
Get him.
if anyone was going to say it, it would be Charles Xavier. That guy's a jerk.
He just stands up for the first time. He's just like, I have so much anger towards you.
That my spine is healed.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be laughing at this. This is awful.
Yeah.
No,
I
but
don't know.
it
I
is
just
a
like
moment.
I just like the idea of indignant rage and intolerance leads a man to be able to walk.
I believe that's the end of
Where
Dr.
science
Strangelove,
where
isn't
science
it?
has failed. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it kind of is to a
Where
certain
science has
extent.
failed.
Yeah.
There is
What
hatred.
I do agree with you though, Grigoni. It's kind of a moment of like, oh, Gene, that was kind of uncool. Like,
Yeah.
don't, you can't do that.
Yeah.
But there's also that weird love triangle kind of going on. I guess no, that's more with Angel. And
That's way more with Angel, yeah.
Angel.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is kind
Who's
of
with Wolverine, though?
And that's another interesting bit is like
girl Wolverine.
Girl
not guy
Wolverine, yeah.
Wolverine.
Scott and Jean seeing their like tragic future of just
Yeah.
like, well, you died and then you came back and then you died again.
Yep.
And we had this like weird tragic love story. So good luck with that, kids.
Yep. So they,
It's a young Scott and Jean.
yeah, they try to get out, and then part of the Cyclops storyline, the Greg Rucka one, is like, I kind of miss you, Gene, and like I don't know how to do all this. And,
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
Them dealing with feelings.
and they get him. If I'm not mistaken, Beast goes and gets them like a couple weeks, like a month or two into being X-Men. Like, they
Yeah, it's
had
pretty early.
just
Yeah.
formed.
Pretty early, yeah.
They're still figuring out what they can.
He
do.
wants untainted X-Men, I suppose. They don't even...
Get them fresh.
Yeah.
He couldn't have. He
Need
couldn't
some
have,
fresh X-Men over here.
To be fair, like current timeline Beast is a creepy mad scientist, I feel like.
He couldn't have gone back and like
To a certain
right
extent,
before
yeah.
the Phoenix Force took over Cyclops. He couldn't have gone back right then. It's like, hey, don't do that. Don't go over there.
Just
Hey,
rescue them from the spaceship
Get back over
descending
here.
into
Yeah, come
Jamaica
on.
Bay.
Yeah, come on.
Stop! Time out! Okay, you come with me. The rest of you die in this plane crash. It's fine.
Yep.
There's going to be like 5 years where you can't figure out if you're good or evil, and it gets weird. That's always the thing that I forget about the Phoenix saga is like it goes on for a long, long time before the Dark Phoenix stuff starts up.
Yes. Well, yeah, I mean... And then there's the whole retcon of just like, that's not really Jean. That's just Phoenix walking around in a Jean suit. Whole thing. But that eventually that
It's
gave
a
us...
whole can of worms that there's an entire other podcast devoted to.
That's true, yeah. I highly recommend Rachel and Miles Explain
Yeah.
the X-Men. So you...
An incredible podcast.
I mean, the continuity of X-Men does deserve its own podcast. It is that crazy and convoluted.
and they are doing it so well.
Yeah.
They are doing it in the only way you could do it. It's this like perfect love for X-Men, but also like, yeah, we get that's kind of crazy, but
Yeah.
we love them so much.
Right,
I was actually
right,
talking
right.
about it earlier today. Of like, this is one of the best soap operas of all time.
It is 100% a soap opera. And I think Claremont's even said as much.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. Especially when he was writing it.
Did he write X-Men?
Claremont?
Yeah.
For a little while he did.
A little while. Just
For a little while he
small
did.
chunk of time.
What was that about? God, like 17 years.
Yeah,
or
something like that.
Oh, I must
I
have
don't know.
blacked
Wow.
out. I must have blacked out for that.
Yeah.
You just skip that portion of time.
A real just brisk 17-year run.
Yep.
I don't think anything notable happened, right?
No.
No.
It was a
Definitely
real
introduce X-Men as we know and love them
holding
today.
pattern for
Yeah.
X-Men. I feel like
Absolutely.
they didn't get innovative until later.
No.
No Storm or Wolverine or Colossus or any of the characters that are like really
No.
distinct and like profound through X-Men
yeah, I don't
canon.
think
No.
And you know what I was also shocked by? The lack of accents.
yeah, no.
Not a single accent.
No phonetically written accents
Nope.
in any sort of
Nope,
atrocious
I had no
grammar.
idea how those people talk.
No.
Like,
Yeah.
oh, you're all white and American.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So I do think that was cool. That maybe unless anybody's got other things to say, like to bookend it with X-Men, kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean,
are there any sort of final thoughts about time travel? I mean, as much as I wanted to talk about Ivar the Time Walker.
Gorgoni. That might have been what? That might have been it.
Ivar the... Oh.
Oh, no.
What?
No.
He walks through time. He's a valiant character.
Did I miss something? Is this what are we?
That was the thing?
Oh, no. Oh, well.
What are you two talking about?
It'll be fine.
Okay.
It'll be fine.
Okay.
We just have to keep an eye on...
Hey Donovan, why did I get a text from you saying go with whatever we're saying?
That was a typo.
That was a typo.
Yeah.
What?
What is going on here?
I was asking if you want to
Are you replacing me with Lissman?
No. John, we need to get to our recommendations.
you
That's how we
can't.
end every episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's do that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Let's
boy.
get to our ending.
Yes.
You two are giving me the weirdest looks right now.
Look, it's fine.
No, we're fine. This is how we always
weirdest
look.
Yeah.
All right.
I
Just
just got
gonna
a text.
ignore.
Yes, this is how they always look.
Oh, good. Okay, it was
Yeah.
confirmed?
Yeah,
Perfect.
it was confirmed.
Perfect. I don't even care who that text was from.
No.
Cool. So we turn now to the way we end every episode with our recommendation segment where we recommend comics we think you should be reading. Listen, we always like to start with our guests. So what comic do you think people should check out?
So right now I'm rereading the Scott Pilgrim series. I just got the whole
Nice.
series in color.
Nice.
So to anybody who has
Brian
not,
Lee O'Malley.
yeah. So anyone who has not seen them in color, they are so
They're
pretty.
gorgeous.
They're
Yeah.
so pretty. And also just check out his other books. I have Seconds as well, and that's
And
I'm a really,
Lost at Sea.
Lost at Sea. Really, really great books.
Absolutely.
Check out our whole episode that we did on Scott Pilgrim as well.
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
Self-promotion there.
Yeah. Very cool. Donovan?
Well, I was going to have two. And a first ever kind of thing. Two
Well,
recommendations.
you gave one out earlier.
So I gave one out earlier. But the other one that I just read and was it was so good is Uncanny X-Men. Just started by Cullen Bunn.
Oh, who we love.
Big fans of Cullen Bunn on the show.
He writes a mean Godzilla book.
He writes a Mean Godzilla book.
He
and-
writes a mean everything. The guy. I mean, not only we talk about how prolific he is, he's also very versatile. He's written a ton of different books.
He writes probably the best Magneto comic of all time.
Unquestionably,
I need
the
to,
And-
the last trade of that just came out, I believe. I
Yeah.
need to pick it up.
And then
fantastic book.
who's his leader of Uncanny X-Men but Magneto?
Nice.
Well, of course.
And it's like Magneto on the street with Mystique and Monet and Sabretooth and Psylocke and Archangel, and it's like, we're going to do what we need to do to make sure mutants are okay. Because it's not a good time for mutants.
No.
It's not usually a good time for
No,
mutants.
but it's particularly a bad
especially
time
bad.
for mutants right now.
Yeah, anti-mutism is...
Well, and also,
Rampant.
isn't in... Because this is post-Secret Wars.
Yes.
So, like, all mutants are kind of, like, sterile now.
It's
Yes.
There's this weird...
Oh.
Yes.
They're kind of being supplanted by Inhumans in
So
a big bad way.
This is the last generation of mutants, basically.
Right.
Yep. And it's the whole tag
That's so
kind of
sad.
thing is a new, more dangerous world deserves a new, more dangerous X-Men team up.
Nice.
And it's awesome. It's
need to
so
read that. I really wanna read
good.
that.
Sabretooth was one of my favorite characters in that first issue, which I don't usually say that. But there's a moment he like is punching through an armored car, and he's like, the guy's there, and he's like, usually I would rip your face off before you could even soil yourself, but that's not me anymore. And he's like, which kind of sucks for my sense of smell right now. And he's like, oh, you're awesome. Like he's like, he's got a sense of humor, and he's like not as big bad, but it's kind of looming there, you know. So I don't know. It's there are a lot less safe X-Men, but as Magneto. Always, his heart's in the right place.
Right.
Now, other people's hearts around him are not in the right places, generally.
Especially if you read Cullen Bunn's run.
Yeah, exactly.
He messes some people up in that book.
So the new and the all new Wolverine 2 I've been reading. I mean,
Yes.
all new Wolverine or all new X-Men titles so far have been really
Very good.
great.
Very good.
really great from Marvel. So I recommend those.
Yeah. Gorgoni?
I'm actually picking something up that is spinning right out of Secret Wars.
Okay.
I'm talking about Ultimate Timeline. I'm talking about Jason Aaron's Weird World. Specifically, I've read the trade that was like the Secret Wars tie-in while it was happening, sort of a thing. This book is by Jason Aaron, like I said, written and drawn by Mike Del Mundo.
Del Mundo.
Yes. I don't think that's how he pronounces it, but I'm sure that's how some people pronounce it.
Exactly I met him. That's what he said.
Okay,
he said, "Hello, I'm Mike Del Mundo."
Fair enough. But this book follows.
He has 5 O's at the end of his name.
Yep.
Follows Archon, who's like a big, burly barbarian guy.
Archon's finally back.
Archon is finally back. You remember him from crappy Fantastic Four and X-Men villain fame.
I actually do.
I believe he fought the New Mutants at some point as well.
Oh, sure he did. You bet he did.
He was been a crappy villain for a while. He is from the golden city of Telemachus.
He's a footnote in the Claremont run of X-Men and the Byrne run of Fantastic Four.
Pretty much, yeah. But during Secret Wars, he gets flung to this weird corner of Battle World.
Why'd you say a weird world?
A weird world, if you will, where everything is kooky and wacky and strange, and he is just trying to kill his way out of it to get home.
As you do.
Like you do. This whole strange landscape is ruled over by Morgan Le Fay and her army of magma men.
I love the Marvel version of Morgan Le Fay.
Oh, yeah, she's awesome. But he has to fight through a underwater city of Apelantis, which is
Apelantis? You literally, I'm not kidding, just sold the book.
It's like Planet of the Apes meets Atlantis.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I don't think we ever talked about my love of Planet of the Apes on the show, but oh my god.
So he has to fight his way through that. He has to fight through.
Is it actually called Apelantis?
It's called Apelantis.
Okay, yeah. Now I'm
that's how weird this world is.
Now I'm sold on it too. If it has a pun,
he finds his way through the swamp of man things. It's a whole a bunch of man things in a swamp.
Oh wow, yeah, this sounds great.
He's constantly being tracked by Skull the Slayer, who's this other big burly barbarian who's trying to kill him.
Very cool.
And in Weird World, you either find a way to you either go insane or you become a monster yourself.
Sure.
It's this the world is ever shifting and driving you
like
crazy.
This book, Gorgoni? This doesn't sound like anything you would like.
It's like Conan the Barbarian meets I don't know, a kaleidoscope. It's amazing.
I know, but you like the cutesy lovey-dovey stuff.
Yeah, I know, and this is a really weird branch for me. But maybe this is just
it's awakening something.
His lifelong devotion to Archie. I mean, this is
who doesn't have one of those?
Issue.
Yeah,
but
never missed one.
So the art of this book is gorgeous.
It looks really cool. I was flipping through it before we were recording. It looks really nice.
I don't know if it's actually watercolors, but it definitely gives you that sense of.
I think this artist is still with the book too.
Oh, excellent! Because I know it has a different writer.
Sam Humphries
Sam Humphries is writing the ongoing.
Yeah, because the first issue of that, I read the first issue of that, and this looks very similar to the art I saw in there.
Awesome, cool. I'm super.
So I don't want to. I'm pretty sure it's the same, or at least somebody aping that style.
But yeah, there's so much cool, weird stuff in a book called Weird World. Archon gets on a dragon and flies around. He goes through Apelantis. Yeah, I mean, this book is just wacky and crazy and awesome, and I highly recommend it. Track down Weird World. It's sweet. John, what do you have?
So since you guys mentioned some Marvel stuff, I want to talk about I recently kind of went through and read a bunch of the number ones of Marvel, and I thought I'd give you sort of an overview for a second here of what you should be checking out of the new Marvel titles.
Sure. I've heard some of your opinions on this.
Donovan already mentioned All New Wolverine, which I do think is fantastic. My favorite X-Men book, though, is actually...
Don't say it.
What?
Don't say it.
Extraordinary X-Men.
Okay, I actually haven't read it. I don't know. But don't say it.
Which is by Jeff Lemire, who's fantastic.
Do love Lemire.
And...
We've talked about
this is a book where it's very much on the forefront of mutants are in trouble. We need to, in classic X-Men fashion, show people that we're awesome, that we are extraordinary, if you will. Of course. And Storm's leading the X-Men.
Nice, as she should.
Guided by the ghost of Charles Xavier. Who may or may not actually exist, but may just be in Storm's mind.
Did he fake his death again?
I can only hope. He's coming back.
He's a psychic projection of some kind his weird...
The
super
man
sleep
never
underneath
stays
the
dead.
X Mansion.
But anyway, the you have that, and then it's all about we got to convince Jean Grey to get back on the team.
Okay.
'Cause she's at this point, she's like, I'm done with superhero stuff.
As she should
I'm
be.
I'm going to be a college student.
Good.
I'm going to live my life
for
away
her.
from this. Storm shows up and says, look,
Yeah.
you've got to be an X-Men. And
Dang it.
we also got to get Nightcrawler back. We got to get Colossus back. I love this team. And then a little bit of spoiler for the end of the first issue, but it's just the first issue, and it's super awesome, is they're using Cerebro, and they're like, wait a minute. There's somebody here who shouldn't be here. Cut to the Canadian wilderness. You see snow everywhere. Panel of a fist entering. Next panel, claws coming out of it. X-Jet lands, and they turn around. They're like, Logan? And old man Logan turns around.
Nice.
It's like, and that's the end of the first issue, and you're just like, yeah, that's awesome. That's
so
cool. That was,
Aren't you supposed to be dead? I get that a lot.
yeah, he's going all Snake Plissken. He's Snake Plissken Wolverine now.
Yeah.
Escape from Westchester.
Yes.
But yeah, so that book's amazing. I mentioned Nova earlier. I think Nova's a super fun book right now because it's Nova and his kid are the characters. But there might be something wrong with Father Nova. We don't know exactly. There's some weird stuff. There's a lot of big monsters and stuff that need to be punched.
Yeah, they're in space. They've got monsters to punch.
No, they're mostly Earthbound at this point.
Really?
Yeah. And there's for some reason
Is it still like all of Xandar is in his brain sort of a thing?
Yeah, I think so.
Because that happened like in Realm of Kings or Annihilation. Like Xandar got blown up and he had to download all of it into his brain.
Something's going wrong with him for sure.
Okay.
And Tony Stark's trying to figure out what that's
all
about.
right, cool.
But meanwhile, the kid's palling around with Miles Morales and Kamala Khan.
Sweet.
And they're having fun adventures, and they're fighting Mole Man.
Yeah, all different Avengers is really cool.
Yeah. Another great book is that's a little off the beaten path is Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur.
Yeah.
I have seen this around, and I am a fan of giant red dinosaurs.
It's about a little girl who's a genius and a prehistoric dinosaur who's trying to stop cavemen from having an all-powerful MacGuffin.
Awesome.
And it's so much fun.
MacGuffins. They're the worst.
It's a lot of fun. They really are.
Yeah.
They cause all kinds of trouble.
Absolutely.
Nobody even knows what they are.
No.
But yeah, it's a super fun book. Check that out. And I've said this before. I think the best title at Marvel right now, unquestionably, is The Vision, written by Tom King. I think this is a really interesting book. Number one, I love robots. I've always loved The Vision, so that might be a contributing factor.
A little biased, yeah.
But the plot of this book is the Vision decides he wants to be more human to a certain extent because he's always sort of striving to understand humanity at the very least. So he builds himself a family.
How could that possibly go wrong?
A wife, a son, and a daughter. And he moves to the burbs. He's now the advisor to the president on like superhero matters, right? So that's his job.
Yeah.
He goes to work at the White House. He tells them, hey, we got trouble over here.
Like
here's how we need to handle this. And so he does that, and then he goes home to the suburbs where people aren't thrilled that there's a robot family living around.
That's racist.
It is. It's a story of
Racist?
racism to a certain extent. And yeah, it's about how do we make a normal life here as a family of robots, and let's just try to but the thing is, the family members aren't quite as advanced per se as the Vision. They don't have the same humanity that the Vision has, so they're like, I don't understand. We should be better than these people. And
So they're Ultron.
They have.
No, he's the
aspects
wacky uncle.
Maybe the wacky like grandfather technically.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
It would be like if Spock settled down with a family of Vulcans.
Kind of,
Because he's half human, half Vulcan.
Right,
And the
so
rest of them are just
And
Vulcan.
so there's this thing where they keep going, well, I don't understand. We should be better than them. And he's like, no, it's not about that. Don't you understand? Like these people. I won't get into what happens because you should go check it out. But some bad stuff goes down.
I can only assume.
But it's a really, really good book. And it has this weird third-person narration that's almost like a Claremont book, but it's like foreboding, where it'll be like
angry Claremontian.
Well, like the neighbors, it starts out with these neighbors coming over, and the father's like, I don't want to talk to these metal bastards or whatever, and the wife's like, be nice or whatever, and so they have this interaction, and as they're leaving, it says like, about their opinions of robots, and it's like, they didn't know, but weeks later they would die burning.
Oh, wow.
Something like that, and you're like,
yikes.
What does that mean? And 3 issues in, we still don't know what that means.
Gulp.
Yeah, but there's all this kind of foreboding stuff like that in there where it's just like before the incident or whatever and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, it's really cool. And if you like the Marvel villain Grim Reaper, he's around.
Cool.
And Taskmaster, by the way, in all new Wolverine,
good old Tasky,
is really cool as well.
Did we just recommend current things? All of us? All three of us?
Well, I mean,
except
for Lissman with Scott Pilgrim, but
it's a reissue. But
the three of us,
yeah.
I mean,
you guys are the ones who matter.
Stuff that's come out within the last 6 months.
Ooh,
yeah, that's pretty rare.
I think this can't be a trend.
I think that's a good sign for.
And Weird World's really good too. The Sam Humphries Weird World,
and that's we're moving into the future.
I'm excited to read that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What if we're gonna see me recommending things that haven't happened yet?
Well, I don't think
Donovan. That would require time travel to occur. And we firmly established
that's clearly not possible, right?
That's not
Let
possible.
me check my phone here.
Donovan, we know that time travel.
Oh, good. I'm really glad you looked it up. Thanks for checking that out.
It's not possible.
Oh.
Yeah, we all know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we all know,
especially you, John.
Yes,
I definitely know,
and you
that.
will always know that.
Yes, of course.
Great.
I'll say it now. Certainly, you'll never see me time travel because it's not possible.
Mm-hmm. Right,
it's just not possible.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know why. What's up, man? Why you got to be so? All right.
We have
John, our listeners can find us on several forms of social media.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, they
try
can.
and find us.
Yeah,
they totally can.
They can find us on Twitter at Panel on Panels. You can find us on Facebook as Panel on Panels.
Mm-hmm.
You can email us, panelonpanels@gmail.com, if you want to email us from a point in time so that we may receive it at a later point in time. That's kind of like time travel.
Mm-hmm. I guess.
We won't read it until the future.
I suppose.
Though we won't be responding to you in your presence.
It's more like a message in a bottle.
Right. Which is a form of time travel.
Sure.
Boy,
it's just slow, moving at the exact same pace as everyone else.
Yeah, but that is traveling through time.
The definition of time travel getting looser and looser with you guys.
Look, once we brought in the Zemeckis stuff, everything else is just out the window, I guess.
All right. Cool. So I think that's going to do it. We want to thank Michael Lissman for joining the panel here today.
Thanks for having me.
Lissman.
And that just leaves us to say for Panel on Panels, I've been John Campbell.
I am currently Mike Ergoni.
And I will always be Donovan Eilert.
Keep reading comics, everyone. What's that new hashtag that we have?
I don't know.
How did we already forget?
Sgt. Pepper Saga.
That's right. Hashtag Sgt. Pepper Saga.
Hashtag Sgt. Pepper's Saga.
I sure hope that's exactly what I think it is.
It totally is.